First tonight, the internal crisis within Nigeria's political parties. In a surprise development, the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, Ganduje, has resigned from his position. Details of the circumstances leading to his stepping down are unclear, and the party has yet to confirm or deny the development. Well, the resignation, which takes immediate effect, was attributed to health grounds. On the contrary, Ganduje's exit comes amid a flurry of recent public engagements that appeared at odds with his stated health concerns. There are reports that his resignation may have been a culmination of some disconnects within the party, while insiders point to the agitation of the North Central Zone and the CPC bloc of the APC that insists the North Central Zone should produce the national chairman of the party. Another group within the party points to moves to persuade Ganduje's political rival, a former Kano State Governor, Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso, to join the APC. The resignation signals the end of Ganduje's short but controversial tenure as APC chairman, which began in August of 2023, following his appointment by the party's National Executive Committee.
Well, for more on this, Arise Director of News and Politics Editor joins us from Enugu Live. Somna Sambo, thanks for joining us. Good to see you all the way in Enugu there. Well, so much is happening already. A new day, it's a new development. Now is the APC at the center of it all. Did anyone see this coming, Ganduje stepping down? And what do you think is at play here? All kinds of permutations. It has to do with North Central wanting the position of the chairmanship of the APC. And of course, some have pointed at recent developments where Ganduje failed to, clearly state that Shettima, the vice president, would be on the ticket come 2027. So many permutations.
All right, Ngozi, contrary to, the last point you had made, it's not about what had happened at that APC zonal meeting of the Northeast zone of the APC. This has to do with internal rejig of the party structure ahead of the 2027 general election. And a lot of party insiders were actually taken by surprise about this, and we've been speaking with a lot of them, and they were actually shocked to have heard that Ganduje actually resigned based on health grounds, like he had stated. But of course, they wouldn't confirm that there's an official letter. But of course, aides that we contacted informed Arise News that yes, indeed, there's something in the offing. And then that thing that is in the offing is what they wouldn't tell us. But of course, we actually learned that some of his personal aides had removed some of his personal effects from his office. That's the chairman, the office of the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, right there in Blantyre Street in Zone 4. And as a result of that, it's pretty clear right now that there's some rejig that's ongoing. And from our sources that we spoke with earlier on, the thinking among top leaders within the governing APC and the presidency officials is actually for chairman to be produced from the North Central geopolitical zone. And of course, those who are in contention at this point in time, two senators, one who is a serving senator and one who is a former senator. And the serving senator is Senator Sani Musa from Niger East Senatorial District. And of course, we also have Senator Almakura, who is former governor of Nasarawa State. And the idea is to see how the APC, according to insiders, can leave the Northwest geopolitical zone open for either the zoning of the vice presidential ticket to that area, or it may be left in the Northeast, depending on how the permutations go. But for right now, earlier in the day, when we have spoken with some of these sources within the APC, they have told us that maybe Ajibola Basiru, who happens to be the APC National Secretary, may have to take over, and not Umar Dalori, who's the Deputy National Chairman North, because the thinking was to actually have a clean sweep and not someone who comes from the same zone as Kashim Shettima, holding forth for the party. But as it stands right now, the thinking from what we have heard is that Umar Dalori, who comes from Borno State, will continue to act as the APC acting national chairman in line with section 14, subsection 2 and 3, which says that in the absence or resignation or death of a national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the deputy national chairman from the zone which the former chairman comes from will actually take over. And that's section 14, subsection 3, actually, which states that. And so with this development, Umar Dalori, who comes from the Northeast, and then, of course, Borno State, which is where Kashim Shettima, the vice president, comes from, would have to take charge when it's eventually made public by the APC that its national chairman has resigned.
Interesting. Sambo, the Kwankwanso factor has also been thrown up. The name of the former governor and political rival of Abdullahi Ganduje. What will that mean? A defection, obviously, from his NNPP to the APC. And that, some are saying, is to reward the Northwest region and ahead, of course, of the 2027 elections. Are you able to make sense of that, permutation of a Kwankwanso joining the APC and replacing a Ganduje?
Yes, I mean, that is not something that is far away because let's be very clear here. The choice of whoever becomes the vice presidential candidate of the presidential candidate is actually the decision of the presidential candidate. And what the presidential candidate often does is to consult with the party before a decision is made. So if indeed President Tinubu feels that it's time for him to rejig his presidential ambition for a second term, because he hasn't even declared for a second term at the moment. People are just saying that he will. Well, officially, President Tinubu hasn't declared for a second term, but he has what's called a first right of refusal to actually decide whether to go for a second term or not. And when he does that, he would have to take party leaders into consideration and into, into a situation of confidence as to how he will go about it. And of course, when the primaries are over, he will now take a decision as to where the vice presidential candidate will come from. For Kwankwanso, he has been unusually quiet within the political scene, with some of his supporters actually left confused as to what exactly is happening and why he has been very quiet. And some people say he has been sneaking to the presidential villa to actually see how he could catch up with his old body, that's President Tinubu. Don't forget, there were governors from 1999 to 2003 before Kwankwanso was eventually defeated, and of course he had to become Minister of Defense and all of that under Obasanjo's government. And so, if indeed President Tinubu comes to a conclusion that he will need Kwankwanso to bolster his chances at the polls, considering that Kwankwanso is coming from the Northwest geopolitical zone, a lot of recalibration would have to happen, because he would have to inform the APC leader why no one within APC is competent enough to be his vice presidential candidate, that he will now have to go outside the APC to pick a vice presidential candidate. And then, of course, he would have to juggle with the fact that he has an incumbent vice president who is there and who is also entitled to be part of this ticket, and that's Kashim Shettima. With what has been happening, I mean, it will be a very difficult decision for President Tinubu to do that. And then, of course, there are APC hardliners, like you would have seen in the Northeast geopolitical zone, who insist that Kashim Shettima must be on that ticket if indeed he hopes to get, to harvest votes from the Northeast geopolitical zone. And if Atiku Abubakar, for example, eventually becomes maybe an opposition political coalition leader, for example, it will be a very difficult sell for Tinubu in the Northeast, if indeed that happens. But if that doesn't happen, it will be a boost for President Tinubu, because he will be able to see how he can juggle the votes around there. But generally, a lot of APC members may actually feel betrayed, that it means that there's no one who's good enough. But there are also some governors who have been saying that they've been approached by some party leaders to show interest. That's APC governors in the Northwest geopolitical zone, who, if this is dangled before them, they would want to do all the best that they can to actually ensure that they not just become, vice presidential candidates to President Tinubu, but that they go all out to harvest the quantum of votes that lies in the Northwest to ensure that they strengthen the Tinubu second-term presidential bid much more than, he had votes last time.
Well, some now will await to see how things evolve. Of course, Kwankwaso is very influential in the north. Whether he has that much political capital remains to be seen. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from Enugu there. Somna Sambo, Arise Politics Editor and Director of News.